Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of McDonald Math. Today we're going to do some whiteboard examples, so go ahead and get your whiteboard and markers out, piece of paper and pencil. Let's begin. So in our last video, we went over simplifying fractions. We went over the notes and did some step-by-step instructions. Today, I've put down 4 problems for you, so if you want to get that extra practice in, go right ahead. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to press pause, solve each one individually, and you can see there are 4 problems, A, B, C, and D. So go ahead, you can solve one at a time, or you can solve all of them, but what I'm going to do is the same thing I've done in all my other videos. When you're ready, press play, I'll review, we'll go over it, and if you got it right, awesome. If you got it wrong, make sure you review your notes and the steps we took to see what you did wrong. That way you can make the correction. All right, so here I have problem A, which is simplify 12 over 18, okay? Now, again, hopefully you're checking your notes, you've written down your factors, and if you wrote down your factors, you should have found that the greatest common factor, remember that's the largest pair between our numerator and denominator, our greatest common factor here should be 6, because 6 goes into 12 and 6 also goes into 18. So I'm going to take that 6 and I'm going to divide it by my numerator and denominator, remember. So 12 divided by 6, 18 divided by 6, I solve. 12 divided by 6 is 2, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So 12 over 18 can be simplified into 2/3. Hopefully you got that right. Let's go on to problem B. And like I said, if you're still working, you can press pause, and when you're ready, press play and I'll review. All right, problem B. So in my last video, I made a point to tell you that even if your numerator and denominator are both even numbers, they can always be simplified. But I also said that doesn't mean only even numbers can be simplified. And I said I would go over it. Well, this is what I was talking about. Because some of you are looking at this and going, how can that be simplified? Remember, anytime your numerator and denominator both have a common factor, okay, a number that can go in evenly to both, it can be simplified. So when we look at this problem, 15 over 27, at first glance, maybe not, but when you really know your multiplication steps, you can look at this and think, okay, well, what are the factors of 15 and 27? And I'm going to write out the factors for this one so you can see it. So 15, 1, 3, 5, and 15. Those are the factors for 15, because 1 times 15 is 15, and 3 times 5 is 15. Now the factors for 27. 1, 3, 9, 27. Because 1 times 27 is 27, but 3 times 9 is 27. Again, knowing those multiplication facts, backwards and forwards, knowing your division facts will really help here. So, is there a 27 in the 15 column or a 15 in the 27 column? No. Cross those out. 5 or 9? No. But we do have 3s. We do have our 3s. So 15 over 27, I'm going to take my greatest common factor, which is 3, and I'm going to divide by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 27 divided by 3 is 9. So 15 over 27 can be simplified to 5/9. So remember, the key here is this. Anytime your numerator and denominator have factors that go into both evenly, it can be simplified, okay? All right, now let's take a look at our bottom row here. Problem C. We have solve and simplify 3/4 times 2/5. So we're going to be combining some steps here. We're going to combine multiplying fractions by fractions and then having to remember the steps to simplify. So remember our steps in fractions by fractions. 2 steps only. Multiply the numerator and the denominator. So let's do that first. Multiply straight across, numerator and denominator. If you want to write it out, go right ahead. So I have 3 times 2, which is 6, 4 times 5, which is 20. And I'll write that over here. I have 6 over 20. So I've done the first part. Now I need to simplify. I need to find my greatest common factor for this problem. So if you wrote out the factors for this, or if you just know, you would find that our greatest common factor is 2. So I'm going to divide 6 by 2 and 20 by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 20 divided by 2 is 10. Now I am finished. I've solved, I've simplified, so my answer for 3/4 times 2/5 is 3/10. All right, we have our last problem here. 8 over 10 times 12 over 24. Now that may look a little scary because those are some big numbers. But I want you to notice something. Look at both of our fractions. Remember what I said earlier? Whenever both the numerator and denominator are even numbers, they can always be reduced. So instead of trying to figure out, especially if you're someone that struggles with your multiplication, instead of trying to do 8 times 12, 10 times 24, let's simplify these fractions first and then reduce. Let's do that. So I'm going to write out all my factors for 8 and 10, find my greatest common factor, and then divide, and I'll do the same thing for 12 over 24. Now if you did that, the greatest common factor for 8 and 10 is 2. So if I divide by 2, 8 divided by 2, well, that's going to get me 4. And 10 divided by 2, that's going to get me 5. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Greatest common factor between 12 and 24 is 12. So 12 goes into 12 one time. I'm going to divide. 24 divided by 12, that's going to get me 2. So now, instead of having to do a really big problem like 8 over 10 times 12 over 24, now I want you to look over here. Now my problem is 4 over 5 here, times 1/2. Look how much easier that is now. Now we're going to follow the same exact steps we did last time. We have a fraction multiplied by fraction problem. I know those steps. I'm going to multiply straight across for my numerator and denominator. Multiply, multiply, 4 times 1, 5 times 2. 4 times 1 is 4, that's my new numerator. 5 times 2, that gets me 10. Now, please understand, I've seen students tell me before, well, I simplified at the start, like you said, I don't have to do it again. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Just because we already did one step one time doesn't mean it's done forever. You may have to do it again. So now we have 4 over 10. We find our greatest common factor. Our greatest common factor for 4/10 is 2. And when we divide 4 by 2 and 10 by 2, let's bring this right here. This is a long one. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our final answer here is 2/5. And sometimes, guys, you'll notice sometimes problems in simplifying are very easy and short, and it'll be just like this. And sometimes there will be multiple steps where you're going to have to take up some room on your paper or your whiteboard. Don't be afraid if it's super quick and easy. Don't second guess yourself. And don't be afraid if you're doing a lot of work. If you follow the steps that we've done in our notes and in these problems, you'll be just fine. I hope these have helped you. Make sure you use these when you go over a quiz or a test, or if you just want some other examples. But thank you again for joining me on another episode of McDonald Math.